Douglas Murray, you've just authored a book related to some of the issues that perhaps a lot of people are trying to discuss today. Some people being told they're not allowed to discuss them today. It's disrespectful to those who have died or are still injured in hospital. But you have been writing and talking about for some years now the issue of Islamic extremism in our midst. What does the terror attack from last night tell you?
Well, it tells us, sadly, nothing we haven't heard many, many times before. The problem, as I very often said, is not that we're not being told something, it's that we don't seem to want to listen. And the attack last night is on a continuum with all of the attacks of recent weeks, months, and indeed years. The idea that we can only start to discuss this now is very troubling to me. The Prime Minister has said, that we're going to have more embarrassing conversations. That's not really the point. This is a conversation that shouldn't have been embarrassing and which we should have been having for very many years now. But if we can start to have it now, then I would think that's one good thing to haul from yet another tragedy.
But this is the thing, isn't it? It's either people shouting, send all Muslims home, an absurd, racist, nasty comment from people on the far right, or it's light a candle, we're all in this together, kumbaya from the left. And actually, I would have thought the vast majority of people in this country are very sensible and don't for a moment think it's the vast majority of Muslims, but don't think that it's acceptable that people, whether they're going to a pop concert or they're walking along Westminster Bridge a few months ago or on London Bridge or in a bar in Borough Market on a Saturday night, should have to be knifed to death or driven at by extremist Islamic people. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Coming to grips with the difference between these things.
Yes, I mean, you're right. I, by the way, have far more faith in the people than I think our political leaders do. I don't think that we, the British people, are a lynch mob in waiting. I don't think we are a rabble who have to be lied to or who can't hear the truth or can't hear facts. I think we are reasonable, liberal, moderate people who have a right to be very worried indeed about what is happening. And as for this issue it is complex. There's no doubt about that. It is not a straightforward thing. The people who think you can wave a wand and solve this are kidding themselves. The main issue, though, which we can, I hope, now tilt right, go straight for, is the fact that the problem is not the people who want to do this. They are a minority. We know that. The problem, to my mind, that we still haven't tackled is the far larger number of people who provide basically the mood music for those people, including the people, including some politicians of all parties, who think that they always come out and condemn an attack, sure, and then they spend all their spare time trying to stop this country having any effective counter-terrorism policy. It is high time that those people were called out.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about people like the Labour MP Yasmin Qureshi and indeed the Labour Party leader, Jeremy Corbyn. I'm talking about people like the former Tory minister, Baroness Wazi, who endlessly campaigns against all kinds of measures that are needed to keep our country safe and spends most of her time, like the other people I've mentioned, criticising so-called Islamophobes. That it would almost be as if the problem was the people pointing to the problem rather than the problem itself. These people are guilty people. They are people who are facilitating the extremists. It is high time this country realise this. It is not just about the people who would carry out the attacks. It is the people who work basically to undermine everything in our country that would stop this happening. The people who basically act as good cop to the bad cop. That is the problem. And let me give you another example. A very important interview that took place on Saturday in the Saturday Times, an interview with a former Muslim police chief who's very distinguished and who gave an interview saying, in his experience, basically most Muslim community group leaders in Britain spend their time campaigning against the counter-extremism policies. These leaders, these communal groups have to be called out for this. Groups like the Muslim Council of Britain, groups like that who spend their time, as I say, like Wazi, Qureshi and Corbyn, pretending that the problem is the people who identify the problem. This has to be tackled head on. These people are helping this terrible thing continue.
Once we identify the problem and everyone actually opens their eyes and identifies, what is the solution? There are some people who are saying mass internment and deporting of people who are not British. But the reality is, as people will say, this was tried in Northern Ireland. It actually ends up being a recruiting sergeant for more extremism. What would you say to that? What are the solutions?
Yes. It's always the case that after any attack, there is thought to be, as it were, one thing to call for. It used to be tightening of control orders. Now people talk about internment. There never is one simple trick, as it were, to solve it. By and large, the laws that we have, the counter-terrorism laws we have, the legal measures we have in Britain are very good. They have stopped many attacks so far. There have been many successful prosecutions, and people who've been taken off our streets before they've been able to carry out attacks. So the laws are good. We don't need to massively change the system. And as I say, to my mind, the absolutely key thing is that it is high time that the government in the UK did what Tony Blair said it would be after 2005 and changed the rules of the game. The rules of the game that need to be changed are not our legal system. We don't need to have mass internment. We need to put a pressure on the communities from which these people come to say, this is your problem, you need to sort it out. And that needs to be made so clear. Stop playing the victim card. Stop pretending that it is you who are suffering. It is the British people who are being attacked on bridges and at pop concerts. And it is coming from your community. And instead of playing the victim, sort this out.
Hold on a minute. The average family here who's British, children are British, born here, same as me, same as you, they happen to be Muslim, they're going about their normal day just as I would. In what way is this their problem?
No, this is, let me give you an example. A poll carried out in December last year showed that half of British Muslims said they would not report to the police somebody they knew to be involved with a group like ISIS. Half. Another poll carried out last year found it was up to 2/3 of British Muslims said that they would not report somebody they knew to be involved in extremism. Julia, if you or I knew anybody who was involved in any form of extremism and we thought we were going to carry out a terror attack in our country, we would be down the police station like a shot. We would.
Were these reputable polls by reputable organisations?
Yes, one was carried out, I think, by Politics Exchange, the other was carried out by The Sun.
This is the thing, isn't it? This is the fear from the politicians, that when we start talking about these things, then people start getting very uncomfortable and start feeling a bit anxious that this is going to lead to some sort of retribution against ordinary mainstream Muslims. Is that a fear of yours?
Look, I'm worried about a lot of things. And of course, I have more faith in the British people than that. As I say, I believe that we are not a lynch mob. I believe that we know that we're not going to take this out on our neighbours and our friends who happen to be Muslim. But as I say, that is not enough. We have to make it clear that if you or I, Julia, knew people who were even anywhere close to groups who wanted to destroy our country or kill our fellow citizens of all races and creeds, and we would know this was a problem to sort out. I don't think we would spend our time talking about phobias and making up fake definitions of illnesses to describe the people who identify this problem. We would try to solve the problem, and all we need to do is to say that Muslims in the UK, like everybody else, and their communal leaders in particular, have to realise that there is going to be a very great deal of pressure now, and there should be. And this can be solved in a decent way. But it cannot be solved by denial and embarrassment and covering over. It won't work any longer.
Are there any politicians right now that you trust to deal with this?
Well, I think that all politicians are on a continuum on this. They're all on a learning curve, like our entire society has been. I think that Theresa May has, through her time as Home Secretary, showed an ability to grapple with this problem. She is, in my view, I'm not a party political person, but in my view, this week there are two people we can elect to be the potential Prime Minister. One is Jeremy Corbyn, whose entire career has been spent defending anybody who wants to blow up people in Britain. And the other person is Theresa May. And my sense, at any rate, is that it would be madness for our country to put its future into the hands of somebody like Jeremy Corbyn, and that the only viable candidate is Theresa May.
Douglas Murray, Associate Director of the Henry Jackson Society, author of The Strange Death of Europe. Thank you very much for speaking to us here at Talk.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.